Hi, welcome to this new episode of Avanscoperta Small Talk. I am Alessandra, and today I am very happy to have as a guest Alessandro Di Gioia.
Hi, Alessandra. Thank you for having me. Thank you for Avanscoperta for organizing this interview.
Great. So before we get started, Alessandro, just a quick reminder. So for the audience, for people who are watching this video, so you can use the YouTube chat to ask your questions, and we'll be check them during our conversation. And let me just change. Alessandro. Who is Alessandro?
Okay.
Alessandro is a software developer based in London and is the co-founder of a company called Alcor Academy. Is the co-author of the book Agile Technical Practices Distilled. And of course is one of our trainer with this new workshop, Legacy Code Refactoring Workshop. But let's talk about your journey, Alessandro. What should people know about your career path and what you are working on today?
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for asking, first of all. I'm a software engineer. I studied and worked in Milan for the vast majority of my life. And then I moved to Stavanger in Norway. And eventually I landed in in London, where I've been working and living for the past 10 years, more or less. I worked for small startups as well as big companies and financial institutions. I worked both as a consultant, as an employee. So I've seen quite a few things. And one of the constant things was code that required a little bit of love, let's say. um, I've always been passionate about software design and software quality. That's why I started this journey many, many years ago on my own, reading a few of the comments online in blog posts and email. So when still the practices of extreme programming was a young one, more than 20 years ago. I'm that old. And as many people, I started with the book about the design patterns, and that was a fantastic tool. The problem is, as a young engineer, when you have a hammer, the the design patterns, everything looks like a nail, and so you start applying it everywhere, and very, very quickly you realize that you are over engineering things. That's when I somehow learned about a book by Martin Fowler that is called Refactoring, that I consider the Bible of refactoring. And one of the things that Martin Fowler was saying is that refactoring is this practice of improving the design of the code without breaking it, without changing the behavior. And one of the requirements to achieve refactoring is that you have test automation in place. So without tests, you cannot refactor code safely because there's a chance you're going to break things and you only find out in production. That's when I learned about test-driven development. And eventually, these days, I am actually a technical coach, co-founder of Alcor Academy, that in the past few years has actually taught a lot of developers how to do test-driven development, refactoring, software design, and so on, including renovating legacy code. And so these days, I'm still a technical coach. I'm also adding new services to Alcor Academy so that we are also providing software development as well as code renovation services. But our history starts with an academy for developers to upskill and improve their craft.
Thanks so much, Alessandro. So my urgent question for you today is, what exactly is legacy code and what does it really mean to refactor it, considering also what is happening in 2025?
Yes. So there are many definitions of legacy code. Like in software, everyone has their own way of naming things. For for the training that we are talking about, and in general, for my approach to legacy code is, according to Michael Feathers, any code that is written without test automation. And so even if you write code today, if you're not including test automation for this, then by definition of Michael Feathers, that code is already legacy. Okay, so that, I would say, it's a technical definition of legacy code. It's a bit strict, but that's okay. The other definition that I like to mention is one from J.D. Reinsberger, and he basically says that legacy code is valuable software that people are afraid to touch. And so I value these two definitions because one is technical, and the other one is social. And since with Alcor Academy we promote a way of working that is social technical, I have to take these two into account. So in our training, refactoring legacy code means mostly breaking the dependency that make the code untestable. On the other side, we are going to face these challenges in mob programming. And so that's the social part that is crucial, because when we are doing mob programming, basically we are scaling out on brain power. And so you have many people that can contribute with their insights and their knowledge about the system so that it's safer to make these changes. And I would say they are going to be like surgical changes, so very precise, not extensive, just enough to make the code testable. In fact, we can say that there's a kind of a paradox about legacy code, because to make changes to the code, you need to have tests. But since you don't have tests, how do you make those changes? Okay. So the idea is to find techniques, experiment with techniques that allow us to find these anti-patterns and then find a solution for those anti-patterns so that your code becomes testable. Why this matters in 2025 with AI? So I've been playing with agentic coding recently quite a lot, and I enjoy it. I love it. Okay, so I'm not against AI. I'm pro AI power. Okay, any tool that make my life easier or make me more productive is welcome. The point is that AI, you have to think about, it's a force multiplier. Okay, and so if you know what are the patterns to avoid or the patterns to chase, if you want, for a maintainable code, the AI helps you a lot. But if you don't and you let the AI vibe, okay, the result is what we are witnessing these days. So there's an increase in technical debt, even in relatively young systems. And the reason is because the AI gives you a boost in productivity. That means that it writes way, way, way more code that you would have written yourself. On the other hand, the AI tends to drift, tends to mimic things that it already saw, maybe not really fitting your domain or your problem. And so you have to care about what is written, but more importantly, you have to be able to guide the AI in the right direction. And so this is why it's crucial in 2025, because refactoring, as I mentioned, is the activity of improving the design, so making it easier even for the AI to extend and maintain without breaking the existing code. And without breaking, when the AI can write hundreds of lines of code per minute, becomes even more important, because it very quickly transcends what our mind as humans can understand at any time. In fact, legacy code is complex code that we cannot predict anymore. when we are applying a change. That is what makes it scary and difficult to touch. We don't know what's going to happen once we are introducing a new feature or fixing a bug. Are we introducing new bugs? Are we fixing this bug? Are we not? How do we know? And so in these days, mastering the principles and the techniques without the AI gives you a massive advantage the moment you know how to handle the AI.
Thanks, very interesting, Alessandro. And talking about challenges, in your opinion, what's the biggest pain point that teams face with the legacy systems, and how do you approach to it?
Okay, so legacy systems have many different problems. Okay, one of the common ones is that maybe you don't even have a continuous integration automation. On the other hand, for this workshop, we are going to talk about the kinds of challenges that are inherent in the code and not in the workflow. And so one of the biggest challenges is that many of the legacy systems are not designed with modularity in mind. Okay. And so what does it mean? It means that when I have to change something, this has ripple effects all over the code base. And since the code base is big and complex and maybe in production for decades, so people that started writing it maybe even retired or are not in the company anymore. So you have a problem of reverse engineering what's going on, understand so what it does, and hope that what you're doing doesn't break the existing behavior. This is crucial. And this is what makes it expensive, because to make sure that you're not breaking anything, unless you're applying the techniques that I'm going to show, then you don't know if anything is going to break in production. So it slows you down, and time is money. The more time it gets for you to add a new feature, improve performance, or fix a bug, the more expensive it becomes. And so basically, it's a way to reduce the stress and the cost of maintaining this code base. How do we tackle this? Well, I'm going to go in more depth about the workshop later, but the basic idea is that we want to introduce surgical changes, small changes that allow the team the writing of tests, test automation. Why this? Because the moment our system is under test, we are putting in place all the guardrails, all the safety net that allows us to confidently make changes without fear. And one of the things that I stress the most is that the right people for this job, it's already in the company, because these are the people that are working on a daily basis with this code base. And so they know all the quirks, all the details, all the challenges that are present. These people are just a few weeks away from what they're doing now to learning how to tackle the problems in a more systematic and safe way. That's why I really stress the fact that this is a social technical training, because you will learn not only the techniques that allow you to improve the code base, but the techniques to facilitate the coding sessions with your colleagues so that you maximize the value that everyone brings to the table, reducing the risk. It's like brain surgery. You don't want to have just one tired person on a Friday night doing brain surgery. You want to have a team of specialists, everyone keeping each other accountable as they are sharing their knowledge. Okay, so that you minimize the risk of damaging. And so it's the same idea. That software pays the bills, pays the salaries, makes money. So it's valuable, it's useful for people. Breaking it, it's not an option.
Thanks, Alessandro. So you mentioned the workshop, the legacy code refactoring workshop. So I'm showing now the QR code. So my next question for you is about what people will experience and learn during the 5 online sessions with you, and what will be the dynamics during the workshop.
Okay, so I will first explain how the average lesson looks like, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of each of the lessons. Okay, so each lesson is about 3 hours, 3 hours and a half. Okay? Consider half a day, and during these lessons, I'm going to give a small theoretical introduction, and then people will start experimenting with some exercises I prepared. Why we are doing this? We are doing this because, thanks to Avanscoperta, actually, with training from the back of the room that inspired this workshop, we let people discover the techniques themselves. Okay, it's not a session where you watch me doing my show and then hopefully something will stick with you. No, it's the other way around. You are going to be the protagonist of this journey, and I'm there just to help you and challenge you most of the times into finding the best solution that applies to the exercise first. But very, very soon, people will realize that, this actually reminds me of a problem I have in production. How do we address that? So I think that one of the biggest value of this training is that on one side, you will learn how to systematically approach legacy code base. On the other side, you have a chance to talk to me and other people outside of your team about common problems, challenges, and possible solutions to those problems. And that's where the real value is, whether it's on the during the workshop or at work. And that's why we do more programming. Okay, the same facilitation will happen at work, hopefully. Now, what are the details of this training? So lesson 1 and 2 are I would say, the most crucial lessons, very challenging lessons, where we will show people what we coined as legacy code smells. So legacy code smells derive from the idea of code smells, which was introduced by Martin Fowler in his book Refactoring. And with legacy code smells, we try to identify those anti-patterns that actually make the code difficult to test and maintain. So we will find out, why is this class or this object difficult to test? Oh, because it's not injecting the dependencies or other things. So we will learn all of these anti-patterns and, of course, how to fix them safely. That's the surgical change I was talking about. And people will have access to a GitHub repository where they can practice freely as much as they want with these exercises. Bonus points if you actually complete all the exercises, especially on your own. I will give you a code review for free. Lesson 3. Lesson 3 is I would say, the game changer in many cases. Because, okay, suppose that now your code is testable, but making it testable and actually having tests are two different things. And so during lesson 3, we are going to explore some techniques to put your code base thoroughly, heavily, and reliably under test. Because I want people to be able to write hundreds and hundreds of tests, even without AI, so that they have a reliable safety net for the refactorings. We will see that just coverage is not going to be enough. We are going to see it, we are going to prove it, and we are going to see also how to fix it. Lesson 4 and 5 are what we call the final boss of the workshop. Why? Because people usually like katas, they like to practice, but they have a very good argument about, yes, but my code base actually is this, it's complicated for this and that reason. And so we are proud to say that we created a monster code base, and the last two lessons are going to be about applying everything we learned so far to a, I would say, production-like legacy code that many other clients actually confirmed it's even worse than what they have actually in production. And so if you can handle this code base, it's very likely that you're going to be able to handle also your production code. I want to mention that previous students managed to apply these techniques in production, not only putting the system under test, but then being able to apply those refactorings that we teach during the foundational training program that Marco is going to deliver. And those techniques are meant to improve the design and lower the cost of maintenance and so on and so forth, because now you have tests. Okay, so this is, I would say, the missing step between being able to improve a code base and actually dealing with production complexity.
Great. It looks like a great workshop.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Of course. So, before moving to my final question, so I just want to invite anyone who is watching the video to share anything about, yes, any insights or thoughts about what we are talking about. So we'll read the chat. So I'll take a look to the chat if some questions are coming. So my final question is, okay, we have a workshop, so the Legacy Code Refactoring workshop by Avanscoperta, but maybe there are also other resources where people can start learning about legacy code.
Yes.
So if you want to mention any books, videos, conferences,
Absolutely.
anything. Thanks.
So my personal preference goes to a book called Working Effectively with Legacy Code that heavily influenced this workshop. And this is the book written by Michael Feathers, and I would say it's a foundational book. It's crucial. Even if it's more than 20 years old, it's still relevant to this day. There are many techniques in there that explain how to navigate a legacy code base. On the other hand, some of the perspectives on the book are a bit backwards. Okay, so he is introducing the refactorings, for example, and just vaguely talking about the anti-patterns. That's why we had to end up with the idea of legacy codesmans. In this way, we can map problems with solutions instead of thinking about in terms of solution and where I want to be. We want to first understand what is wrong, why is wrong, and then how to fix it. On the other hand, this is the book of the course, if you want. Another very good book that came out recently is Domain-Driven Refactoring by Acerbis and Colla, two good friends. And I would say this is a very, very good book if you are interested also in domain-driven design, and you have a complex code base that require a merging of the domain so that you can express the complexity of the domain and tackle it in a more direct way. On top of this, I can recommend a few videos from Llewellyn Falco. And these videos are about the techniques of peel, slice technique. So these are techniques that we are going also to apply and see very quickly during lesson 4 as a bonus to see what else can be done to break the dependencies. If you like functional programming, that's where you will be happy to see how to handle legacy code. The last video is called Practical Refactoring, still from Llewellyn Falco. And of course, practical refactoring, it's more about tackling complexity in code rather than breaking dependencies, but shows very, very well, I would say, a good refactoring session, in my opinion. I can also mention in general Emily Page. Emily Page is a great software engineer that influenced and contributed to the community for many years now. She's the author of Approval Test, which is the library that we are going to use for the workshop. And so I can only recommend visiting her page and her GitHub account if you want some exercises on refactoring code.
Yes, thanks, Alessandro. So someone was asking about book titles, so I will share them in the comments of the of this video later on YouTube. Of course, I will put all the resources mentioned by Alessandro. And then, any final thoughts, Alessandro? Something that we should mention that we have not mentioned yet?
Well, the only thing that comes to my mind is that in the era of AI, it's even more important and crucial that we know what is wrong, why it's wrong, how to fix it, and what good looks like. Okay? Because I can say that AI is a good servant, but I'm not sure he's a good master. Okay, and so we have to be able to stay on top of our game for ourselves, for our clients, and for the safety of everyone.
Thank you so much, Alessandro.
Thank you.
We are quite at the end, I would say. And so, yes, we can start. Yes, we just can end the streaming. And just let me remind that talking about the workshop, we still have a couple of available seats. So if anyone wants to join us during your upcoming online workshop, can just scan this code, or drop us an email. I thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge, and can't wait to see you online soon. So
thank you so much again.
Thanks, Alessandro.
Ciao, Alessandra. See you soon. Cheers.
And see you to the next Small Talk episode.
Thank you. Bye. Cheers.